Hi, I'm Steve Holden. I'm super excited to be here, and I'm super excited that you all showed up. I wasn't sure on a Thursday at 4 o'clock. I knew that my Fannie Mae friends would be here, but I wasn't sure who else was going to come, so thanks for being here. I view what we do as a community of practice. The whole world is changing, as we all know. The way data is being consumed, what's possible, it's all changing. And everyone's figuring different things out. And why I'm excited to be here today is because while there are lots of things we haven't figured out yet, we have figured out a few things, and if I can share those with you, and maybe some of those things will be helpful, that's great. And maybe through the dialogue, there'll be things that we'll get out of this as well, this experience, either today or in other sessions that we've been attending. So I'm really excited today to share a little bit about our story. So here's our agenda. I'm going to tell you a little bit about us, about Fannie Mae, and then I'm going to talk about a transformation that we went through, our story of Tableau adoption that really began in earnest, I would say, 5 or so years ago. And then to make it interesting, I'm going to demo a couple of items. They're going to be mostly screenshots, but the first is the reporting platform that we're using, and I'll talk about why I think that's been a game changer for us, and it's really accelerated our journey. And then I'll show you some numbers using a Tableau JavaScript API demo that was produced by my good friend Carlos Cruz in the front row here. And then I'll talk a little bit about where we're headed next and some of the challenges. So if you came here for other things, you're in the wrong place. But if you're interested in hearing a little journey and some lessons learned along the way, you're in the right place. So hopefully, and we'll go for, I don't know, we'll do 40 minutes maybe, and then open up to Q&A if that works, okay? If you have a burning question, you can yell it out, but otherwise we'll do Q&A at the end. Okay, so I'm going to make sure I know what's on the screen. So who are we? We're Fannie Mae. I don't know how much you will know about us. Don't believe everything you read in the press. But we're in the secondary market. We're a business-to-business, a B2B company. And we acquire mortgages from independent mortgage bankers, from commercial banks, from credit unions. And we take those loans and we securitize them. We transfer the risk. And there's two types of risk we think about. There's prepayment risk and there's credit risk. And we take some stake in the credit risk, but we also transfer that risk to private market investors, okay? And I sit in the single-family mortgage business. So this is 1 to 4 unit single-family dwellings. These could be single-family homes. It could be condos, co-ops, or manufactured homes. And so the loans that support those types of properties, that's the space that I sit in. And just to give you a sense of size, we have about 17 million loans that we are actively managing. It's about $3 trillion, so the numbers are pretty big. And in 2019, somewhere between 20 and 25% of all mortgage originations were delivered or sold to Fannie Mae. Okay, so the numbers are pretty big. As I always like to say, when you're dealing with numbers that big, little mistakes become big mistakes. So we put a lot of care and energy into our analytics. I sit in the single-family analytics group. I actually run that group. It's about 180 people, and primarily sort of data science type individuals. We've got some data experts. We've got a few Tableau experts. And we sit with the business, and our job, if we do our job right, is to give our business partners in real time information that's decision ready, that enables them to make decisions that are informed and enable them to achieve their objectives. So if someone's out there in the field or they're trying to make a decision somewhere, they should be able to get information quickly that will help them make good choices. And so that's us, single-family analytics. So I'm going to take you on a little bit of a journey. And I'm going to go back to, I said 2015. It might be 2014. I don't know. There's a few historians here who could correct me. But this was a time period, and I'll just do a little bit of context setting. The economic recovery was well underway. And during the economic crisis, we had really built up a lot of analytics teams across our business in small pockets everywhere. And the reason why was because there was a crisis going on, and there was a lot of work to be done, and we had to move fast. And so there was just a lot of energy put in across the company to really try to make sure that we could harness the data quickly and drive decisions and get things done. And by the time we got to 2014, 2015, we sort of picked our heads up and looked around and realized, yeah, probably this isn't, been organized quite the right way. The crisis is sort of under control, and we should start to think a little bit more about how we organize ourselves. A couple things I would point to. There was really some inconsistency in standards across the business, just meaning that, in some parts there were teams with sort of pretty deep statistical skills. In other parts, there were teams that really just focused on reporting. There wasn't a lot of standardization in how the work was getting done. There was lots of different BI platforms in use with varying degrees of success. There was a lot of SharePoint sites with access controls that precluded people from getting information easily. This is a huge problem for us. There wasn't a lack of information, but there was a lack of access to information. It was really hard to find out what was going on. You needed to have all the right access. And inevitably, there was a lot of redundancy, because if you can't see what's going on, you start to recreate things that already exist. You can't see them. And so we had a lot of redundancy and a lot of difficulty accessing information. There also wasn't a clear business value to the end product. And that just means that a lot of information was being transmitted, being communicated, but it wasn't clear who was looking at it, how it was being used, how it was really adding value. It was really difficult to understand how that information was being leveraged. And we had a lot of issues with speed. And the way I like to think about this is, in the old days, you had Excel, right? You had reporting in spreadsheets. And OK, it wasn't ideal, but you know what? It was easy to use. You understood what you had. You could manipulate it. And suddenly someone shows up and says, hey, we've got this great BI platform. You can go in, you can drill, you can do all sorts of cool, nifty things. And then when you go and look at this great new platform and you click for the report to render, you wait, right? And you wait, and you wait, and you wait. And the information doesn't show up for a while. And the experience isn't as good. And so if you want people to switch, you've really got to give them a better experience. And we didn't have that better experience as we were trying to evolve the technology. So these are some of the issues that we had. But there was also a silver lining to the cloud. And the silver lining was we had really good data assets. This is something that Fannie Mae, over the course of many, many years, had been really careful with, had really done a nice job of managing and maintaining. And so this really became the foundation upon which we could really drive some change. And so as I think about the problem statement at this point in time, at this moment, it was lots of information, hard to get to. How can we help our business partners by delivering the information they need easily and effectively? And as we thought about that, we came up with 3 guiding principles that we followed. And the way I like to think about this is, as you're starting to drive change, you're going to hit forks in the road. Okay? You're going to get to a point where you're going to turn left or you're going to turn right, and how do you make that decision? And so we had a set of guiding principles that we followed to help us with those decisions. And so there were 3 things we really thought about. Thing 1 was access. As I mentioned earlier, it was very difficult to get access to information. Okay? Lots of passwords, lots of SharePoints that you didn't even know existed, lots of redundancy of information. And so we adopted a mindset of, let's give people access to information. Okay, let's not try to create a ton of control. Let's make sure that if people have got to get information to get their jobs done, let's not make it hard for them to get that information. And there's always that natural tension in institutions and organizations of how much control is the right amount of control. And I would say that for us at this moment, we made a deliberate choice to use less control than we had in the past. The second thing was speed, and I touched on that, but it was very important that it was a good experience, and part of that experience was things needed to load fast. And then finally, self-service, something that Tableau does great. This idea that if you need to get some information, It's great if you call us up, we can get it to you, but isn't it even better if you know how to go get it yourself? So let's create systems and environments where it's easy for you to go grab what you need 95% of the time, and then for that other 5%, we can have the conversation. But let's try to automate things and make them available and make them easy to get to. So some key things we did early. Number one is we picked Tableau as our single standard for visualization. And we labored a while on this decision. There were multiple platforms that were in use, both within my group, but also actually across Fannie Mae. One of the key reasons why, there were two key reasons why we chose Tableau ultimately. Reason one was there was a community out there. All of you, frankly. So when we were stuck, when there was something we couldn't figure out, we weren't calling Tableau necessarily. We were out there on the internet looking for help, and there was tons of help because there were tons of users. There was a real community out there, and we found that compelling. And the second thing was, as I looked across the organization at all of the different tools and capabilities out there, it always seemed to be that the places where Tableau was getting used was the places where we were seeing the best results. And so for those reasons, we made a choice within my team that we would adopt Tableau and we would shed all of the other platforms that we had in place. We also recommitted resources to our data layer. I don't know where you all are in your journeys. Maybe some of you are pretty far advanced, maybe some of you are just getting started, but I will tell you that it's all about the data. You can't underestimate the importance of great data, and data is not something you wake up one day and decide, I'm going to be great at this. You have to get up every day and care about your data. And the analogy I use a lot when I talk with my IT partners and others in the organization about data is, I view it as a garden. Some of the most beautiful gardens in the world have evolved over years and years of great care and tendering to those plants and bushes, the weeding, the pruning, the planting. That's how you make a great garden. And data is the same way. Every day you've got to be thinking about your data. Thirdly, we brought significant computational resources to improve load speeds, to make sure the experience was good. We use a Netezza appliance in conjunction with Tableau, and it was sort of this magic of those two things together that really was the game changer for us. I'll talk at the end a little bit about cloud and where we are today, which is sort of exciting, and we're making some great progress there. But the combo back then of Netezza and Tableau together was huge for us because it made stuff just load really fast. And then finally, we thought a lot about skill sets and about career pathing for our team. And there was a real mix and variety of expectations and skills across the group. And we ultimately came up with a broader set of expectations for analysts within the team. We invested in them with training and development. And we made their paths, their career paths, have sort of a longer life, or the ability to grow further and faster than they had in the past. So really rethinking what we expected. And just to sort of put a finer point on this, the notion that you can be a deep data expert, a deep subject matter expert in the business, be able to create beautiful visualizations, have a pretty good understanding of statistics and modeling, right? There was no reason why we couldn't expect people to grow in those dimensions and to support people in that development. And the commitment that I've always made to my team is, when you join this group, you will eventually go back out on the job market. We all do. I promise you that we will invest in you, and if you invest in yourself, you will be more marketable when you leave than when you showed up, because we're going to work with you on relevant skills for the market. And this is such a dynamic area that I don't think we can succeed if we don't have those kinds of commitments. So let's talk a little bit about Tableau adoption. One of the things we did was we set dates to shut down competing platforms. We had a fair amount of business objects across our single-family business, and it was painful, but we picked a date. We put it out there. One of the guys on the team had a chalkboard, and he had days left to the end of business objects, and we took it out of our environment completely. And then we also thought a lot about design. We wanted things to look good because we felt that people will use your systems if they have a good experience. And having just sat through the Iron Viz yesterday and seeing what truly good design looks like in Tableau visualizations, I was super impressed with what's possible. And then across the enterprise, what we did was we funded Tableau licenses out of our budget. So I would always end up in these conversations where we build these Tableau dashboards, and then someone in some other department says, oh, I can't really use your work because we don't have licenses. And we're trying to drive adoption. We really believe that this was the right tool for the company. And so we just made a decision that for as long as we had budget money, we just keep buying people licenses to get this thing going. And that was I think, a huge driver for the change that we saw. We also did a lot of training, very organic. I never said, hey, let's go train the company. People in the group who were really bought into what we were trying to do went out and educated the rest of the company. Every quarter, we'd set up a training. We'd have tons of people show up. JC here in the audience, one of the original architects of that. People showed up and they got trained. And that also pushed the evolution within the company. And then finally, we just evangelized. We all believed this was the right tool for the company, and we were all out there talking about it constantly. So with that, I'm going to talk a little bit about Report App. Report App is an in-house technology originally built by my team for my team. This is a third version of something that originally started. There were 2 prior versions of this from 2 different parts of Fannie Mae. And this is sort of the iteration, the sort of continuous improvement of it that we built for our team. But ultimately, the whole company embraced it and adopted it. Okay, and I'm going to show you that. And the way to think about Report App is if you're out on Tableau server and you're creating lots of visualizations, right? There's all kinds of stuff out there. Who knows what's what? Report App is a place where people who want their information to be publicly accessible within the company, okay, within our intranet, they will make a statement by publishing out to Report App. So you can go out to the Tableau server and look around and see what's out there, and maybe you've got access to certain things, but you're not quite sure what you're looking at. If it goes to Report App, you're making a statement, I want this to be visible to people. I want people to go out and look at it. This is my product that's really important. Okay? What this did was it brought reports out into the open. It took them out of these SharePoint sites and these emails that if you're on the distro, you got the thing, and if you weren't, you didn't. And it put it in a place where everybody could see it. And what this did was it shone a light on redundancy, because if you've got 2 reports, one from finance, one from the business, and they kind of do the same thing, and they both sit in the same place, and they're right next to each other, and you see them, then you ask questions like, well, why do we have these 2 reports? Maybe we should just have one. So it forced people to see the amount of redundancy that we had. It also enabled us to see who was looking at things, because it became a pull. You would go out and you would pull the report, and we would track the clicks. And so what that enabled us to do is understand where the value was coming from, like who was looking at these reports, what value was added. We could go have a conversation with the customers, the people looking at the reports, make them better, understand what they were, what value they were driving. So those are some key dimensions. I'm just going to show you some screenshots now. This is how the app looks when you access it. Across the top, there's a menu bar, and I'm going to click through these. There's a recommendation engine that'll just tell you some reports that you might want to look at. Each report is set up by a tile, and I'm just going to drill into the tile and show you what's on there. It's all very user-friendly. The left side is going to be an icon that tells you the kind of file it is. It's predominantly Tableau. I'm going to show you how much Tableau, actually, but it's not exclusively Tableau. You can publish anything out there. You can publish Excel. You can publish PDFs. You can publish HTML. You can publish whatever you want, but it's predominantly it's being used for Tableau. As you can see from this, there's the name of the file. So this is the daily acquisition profile report. You can see that it's a daily, so every day that'll get refreshed. It'll get refreshed overnight, so in the morning when you go, you'll get the updated data. And this one's open access. So let me talk about access for a second. We developed an expectation that unless you had a really good reason to put access controls on reports, you would make it open to the company. So the idea that you're an employee of the company, that you're expected to do the right thing, that we track everything anyway, every click gets tracked, but we're not going to throw up a bunch of access controls in front of everything. Now, there are lots of reasons why you might want to put access controls on something, and that possibility is certainly available. But about 40% of what we publish is the day you show up as an employee of our company, you have access to 40% of the published dashboards. And that's a publisher-determined setting, okay? So when you go out and publish your dashboard out, you make a decision, do I want to open this up or not? It's your choice, you're accountable for the choice, but we encourage you, unless there's something really proprietary about it, it's an HR dashboard with lots of proprietary information, or there's a lot of MPI or something, you know, it's our business. We want our employees to understand our business. Innovation comes from people understanding how the business runs end to end, so we don't want to make it difficult for you to get to information. That's a real mindset shift, okay? There's been a lot of talk in this conference about driving a data culture. I was at a session earlier with Mark Jewett, who runs product development for Tableau, I believe, and he was making this point, that there's this natural tension between access and control, and you've got to figure out where you want to stand on that spectrum. And I would encourage you, if you're trying to drive a culture, a data culture in your organization, I would encourage you to think about the controls you have in place and why you have them and what the appropriate level is. Okay? It depends on your business, it depends on what you're doing. But again, if you can encourage people to see what's going on, people will start to make connections, connect dots, and they'll start to innovate more. So that's sort of the mindset that we had. So this is an open access report. It's just loans that we acquire every day. And if you want to know what we're acquiring, you're an employee, you should know that. On the right-hand side, there are two buttons. These are toggles. The top one is a favorite. You can toggle it to be a favorite, and that just makes it a star, and then you can untoggle it by clicking it again. And then the bottom right is the access of that report. So because it's open access, that will be green. It'll be a green unlock sign. But if it's a report that requires access, it'll be a red lock. And if you want to get access to it, you click it. Okay? You click it. And what happens is it turns gray, and an email gets sent to the owner of that report who asked to be informed if someone wanted to be able to see their report. And then if they are okay with it, they can go into the system and just click you to approve. And then the next time you go in, it'll be green. Or if you refresh it after they approve, it'll be green. So the access controls, not only do we have a lot of access, open access, but if there is access control, we try to make it an easy experience to get to it. Again, if we can just make it easy for you to get to information, we believe that's going to be important for our culture. Here are my favorites. Another key element is search. So for those who are from my generation, when I explain this, I talk a lot about Gmail. I remember life before Gmail. There might be anyone here remember life before Gmail? Make me feel good. Here you go. Okay. So life before Gmail was, I don't know what you had, right? But you had an account where it was only so big. So you used to have to delete all your emails all the time, right? Because you could only have so many emails. And then the ones you wanted to keep, you filed them away, right? You remember filing away your emails. A few of you remember this, okay. And then Gmail came along. And suddenly your inbox was limitless. And search meant you didn't have to file anything away ever again, right? It's a great evolution. And this is the same sort of mindset, which is, you can publish as many dashboards to this environment as you want. Okay, you can put as much stuff up as you want. And when you do, you're going to assign some keywords to what you publish. And those keywords are going to enable your report, your dashboard, to be visible very quickly, very easily. Okay, so this is an example. When you first go to the search, I don't have it here, but you'll have every report in the system. We've got about 1,200 reports. I think it's about 700 Tableau visualizations, dashboards in here. And then you type into the search field the thing you're looking for. In this case, I've typed SFC, special feature code. It's a Fannie Mae thing. And immediately it goes from 1,200 tiles down to 10 tiles. Okay? So it's not down to 1, it's down to 10. And then you can look at those 10 and you can look around and see what might be of interest to you if you're trying to understand special feature codes. Okay? So search is very powerful. And it's easy to find things. If you're trying to research something, before you even need to call a subject matter expert, you can find stuff. And then finally, one of my favorite features is something called TeamView. The way to think about this is it's a way for you to publish your favorites to the community. Okay, so people often say to me, hey, Steve, what do you look at? Like when we have new people joining the company and they will do an intro interview and they'll say, well, what do you look at? What's important to you? And so I ended up just publishing all of my favorites out to this thing called TeamView. I call it Holden Hits. It's a tip my hat off to those of you who know iTunes celebrity playlists. This is kind of like my playlist. But I published it out there, so if other people want to know what I'm looking at, this is it. And they can see the things that I'm regularly checking to understand what's going on in the business. And we have about 140 of these. And you can shop around and see what's out there. The affordable lending team has one. The multifamily team has one. The mortgage fraud program has one. And you can go in and type and look around and see what's out there. And they'll just take that 1,200 reports down to a small group that are really focused on a particular area of the business that you might want to understand better. Okay. And then finally, if you are a publisher, you don't call anybody up and say, hey, I want to publish my report. You go out, and it's all self-service. You add your report, and you add your keywords, and you add your access level, and whether or not you want to be informed and approving it. You do it all yourself. You don't have to tell anybody. Okay? So Report App met our guiding principles. We democratized information across the company, right, through our access system. We delivered Tableau reports fast. The stuff that we put out there runs really quick. It's a good experience for the users. And it's all self-service, both in terms of if you're looking for information, you go out and you look for it. And if you're producing information, you go out and you share it. Okay? So that's Report App. So I'm going to switch to Demo 2. And Demo 2 is just usage. Okay? So we're showing you how people are using the system. So I'm going to take you through 3 views. The first view is just a meta view, just an aggregate view of usage to give you a sense of the adoptions we've had. And then I'm going to show you a consumer view. Who's looking at all this information? It's a lot of information. Who are these people? What are they looking at? What's important? And then I'm going to take you through a producer view. So if you were a producer of information, who's looking at your work? Okay. So let's start with just the overall numbers. So this is a view from December of 2016 to the date that I looked at this, which was September of 2019. We've had 2 million hits to the system. Again, we're a company of 7,300 full-time employees, okay? And then a few thousand contractors on top. And we have, over this period, 6,700 unique users going into our system. Okay, so we've got pretty widespread adoption in terms of people going out and looking at what's out there. And there are, as I mentioned, there's actually, the day I pulled this, there's 1,085 products that are out there available. And on the right side, you'll see a view, and I'm not sure how visible this is, of the monthly view of hits. And we've been growing very steadily, as you can see, up to about 50,000 hits per month. And I think I have a unique user view. Yeah, as a unique user view, we're up to 2,750. So 2,750 unique users go out to the system. So probably 40% of the company, maybe 35%, go out every month. Okay, so again, it's pretty good adoption. I actually know the daily number as well, so I'll mention that, which is we have about 800 unique users per day. Okay, 800 people go out every day and take a look at what's out there. They're pulling information. It's largely Tableau. It's 62% that looks like Tableau, but there are other products that people put out there. But our Tableau adoption is pretty widespread. So let's talk about the consumer view, and let me just motivate this by saying, in the old days, okay, 4 years ago, it was hard to find information, as I mentioned earlier. Today, that's not the problem. Okay, we have open access. Everyone's putting stuff in one place that's easy to find. It's easy to search. Our problem today, which back then we might have thought was a good problem to have, is we've almost got too much information. And the question is, who's looking at it? Who's synthesizing it? Who's making sense out of it? What are the business decisions that we might want to make now because of information that's out there? Right? The beauty of Tableau is the data refreshes, all the dashboards change, but you actually got to go out there and look at it and see what's going on. You've got to care about it. You've got to be curious. And one of the things I emphasize with my team is curiosity is very important. Okay? The computers can't do everything for you. At some point, you've got to care. And so one of the views that we've created, you can go in and type any person in the company, okay, from the CEO down. And for anyone you choose, it will take their organization, okay? So if it's a frontline employee, then it will be them. And if it's the CEO, it will be the whole company. And it will tell you what that group is looking at, okay? And so this is a view into my team. And so this is a year-to-date number. So we've had 16,491 total views out of my team of about 180 people. I've got 157 people going out and pinging the system, okay? So not everybody, but a fair amount of people. And there are 605 unique work products that people are going out and looking at, again, just from my team, okay? And I can look at what those top things are that people are looking at. And I can look at who's looking at things and what they're looking at. And as you can see, I drink my own Kool-Aid. I look at a lot of stuff. It's my job. I've got to understand the business. One of the things I always like to tell people is when I go for my one-on-ones with my boss, who's the head of the single-family business, and he is one of my biggest users, by the way. He's out there in Tableau all the time, which is testament to what we built, frankly. But it's also great that he's leading by having that level of curiosity and engagement. But before I go meet with him, I always go out here and I look at what he's looking at. And the reason why is because he's so active and there are things that he's super interested in, and the second I walk in, he's going to ask me about them, and I want to be prepared, okay? So I'm always checking what he's looking at. But this is just a sense of who's looking at what, and you can mouse over these, of course, and it'll tell you what the reports are. Probably as important, if not more important, is the products that my team are responsible for and that ultimately I am accountable for. And so this tab is exactly that. So again, I typed in my name. So this is going to show everybody, including me, everyone in my organization, including me, in terms of ownership of work products, okay, of dashboards and other items. And so here you can see my team currently owns 387 products. So out of that 1,185, or whatever the number was, 387 are coming from my team. The other products, by the way, are coming from multifamily, human resources, finance. It's coming from all other corners of the company, which is great. We support about 140 business units. We have 2,700 unique customers. So again, probably 35, 40% of the company are actually looking at the products that we're producing in single-family analytics. We've got 127,000 views. These are all year-to-date numbers, okay? This matters because we're deploying resources to solving business problems, and we care that people are actually engaging around that work, okay? So for any given product, we can see who's looking at it and who isn't. One of the things that we do, and it's an automatic system setting, is if you publish a report, if you publish a dashboard and no one clicks on it, okay, you will get an email, system-generated email, on a monthly basis saying, hey, you know that thing you put up there, no one's looked at it this month. And it's just between you and the computer, okay? No one else knows. But the idea is that we don't want stuff up there that isn't adding value, and we want you to know who's looking at it. You can go look at the report yourself, but in case you're not, we let you know. And we really want to sort of constantly be self-curating the content in an automated way, and that's one of the ways we do it. Okay, so then I can look at my production superstars. You can see Joseph here has 11,270 views for his work products, and you can see he's got about, I don't know, it looks like about 15 or so vizzes that he puts out there. And Elon similarly has 10,500. So you can look through the whole team and look at which product owners, which producers are really getting a lot of hits and a lot of interest. I would also add, by the way, that it's not all about numbers, okay? Meaning that it might be that there's only one person that ever looks at the work product and they look at it once a month. Okay, that doesn't mean it's not important, all right? It depends on the product. But this is just information, it's just facts, and it's just helpful to contextualize how you're spending your time and your energies. And then finally, this is a view by product, okay, by visualization. So here I think it's Elon who has the #1 product. And one of the things you can see here is these are all the business units that are looking at his product. And it's there's a huge variety. Okay, he's got this one product. It's some sort of lender dashboard, I think, and tons of people in the company are looking at it. Every square there is a business unit. Okay, so these aren't people; these are teams that are looking. And then you can look by business unit at our biggest customers in aggregate. Single-family collateral risk management is our biggest customer. We eat our own cooking. We're our second biggest customer. Our customer delivery teams are our third biggest customer. Okay, so we can see how people are consuming our information. Okay, so finally I'm going to do a little bit of a look ahead, and then we'll open it up. I'm happy to take questions. I can phone friends. I've got lots of friends in the front row here, if you can help me. So where are we going next? We're thinking a lot about improving search. The keywords is kind of cool. But again, if I can use an analogy that'll be familiar, when you go out to Google and you do a search, it used to be that it would return a lot of links, right? But today, what does it do? It returns links, but it tries to answer your question, which is kind of cool. Usually the first couple of things that get returned are answers to the question. And we've been doing some experimentation with natural language querying. The way we're architected, and it may be very different for all of you in terms of your data, but we have a couple of key data sources, a couple of key data assets that we've spent a lot of time and taken a lot of care in. And you can use natural language to query those and get very quick answers to questions. The Ask Data capability that's been discussed here at this conference is another opportunity for that. But just finding ways to answer questions and to improve the way people can access information. Number two, which is the thing I'm most excited about right now, is I'll move to cloud. I mentioned that we have that combo of on-prem Netezza and Tableau that really gave us a really good end product. But we're moving to cloud. We moved all of our key data sources, our key data assets to the cloud earlier this year. And actually just this week, we released our first 4 Tableau dashboards in Amazon using Redshift. And what's cool about it is, and one of the ones we picked was a pretty highly computationally intensive process, so we're really trying to test it out. And what's cool about it is if you go out to Report App and you find that asset, it's called links, and you click on it, you actually don't know, right, that it's not using Netezza anymore, it's all on the cloud. To you, the experience is the same, except actually it runs a little quicker. But for us, it's all moving. We're moving it all there, and we've got our first 4 out. It's looking great. Touch wood, it's early yet, but it's looking great so far. And so we're going on this journey to move all of our assets out to cloud. And then finally, move to mobile. I mentioned that my manager is super engaged in all of the dashboards we create, and he's out there all the time looking, which is great. But that's not the case for all the executives. That's not the case for everybody in the company. We've got great adoption, but I believe that the easier you make this information to get to, the more engagement you're going to get around the data, the numbers, the information. And I think that to make a great data culture and to build a stronger company, you need more engagement around the facts. And I think mobile is going to help us with that. I was super excited, by the way, I think it was in the keynote when they were going through some of the new capabilities, this Tableau metrics, I think it was called, where you can go into your dashboard and you can create a metric, and then it'll create a little view that you can then port over to your phone. And so you can go to 15, 20 different dashboards, find all your different metrics, and create your own handy-dandy dashboard on your. I think that's going to be a game changer for us. So I'm certainly looking forward to implementing that. I spent a lot of time moving around all different places to try to get a sense of how our business is evolving, and I think that would save a few steps. So I think that'll be pretty cool. So those are some things we're thinking about next, and I would be happy to take any questions that you might have. And look, we've got 20 minutes, so.